You're listening to the Strange Oddities Podcast. Please welcome your host, Matthew J. Haas. This is your podcast for strange things.
What's up, listeners and viewers of the Strange Oddities Podcast? I'm your host, Matthew J. Haas. And if you notice, I have a different background tonight. I thought I would choose something different to block out the nice sunburn that I have on my face. So I'm hoping the brick background would take away from the sun that I have on my face a little bit. But I hope it doesn't stand out too much because I was outside all day. It was nice out. Anyway, all that aside, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. As always, guys, we do have a great guest tonight, but before I introduce this cool gentleman, really longtime friend, and I think you guys will love him as a guest on the Strange Oddities Podcast. He's very entertaining, very positive, outgoing person, really great personality, so I can't wait to introduce him to everybody on the show. But we have a website, strangeodditiespodcast.wordpress.com. I do have an email, strangeodditiespodcast@gmail.com. All right. You can listen to us live on Facebook and on YouTube. And I'm also now part of sponsoring Paraflix. I just recently connected with them, and I want you guys to go check out Paraflix. I will share all that info later on in the show where you guys can get all that info. If you want to connect with them, there are many different ways. I'll share that later. But I'm, excited for that. And well, without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Christopher DiCesare. We go back a little ways. I can't believe we were talking that the very first day that we met was almost 10 years ago. And it was at an event at Lake George, New York. And I was an avid listener of a radio show, and he was a guest on the show. And I was an avid listener of that show. And we just connected at the event, and we got along really great. And ever since then, he's never been able to get rid of me. We've been friends ever since. So I'm going to bring him in here. Christopher DiCesare, what's up?
Hello, good to see you.
All right. Well, you have a book, Surviving Evidence. You have a film that was directed and produced by Mara Katria, Jeff Unger, and it's called Please Talk With Me, which is, I guess, an adapted film kind of version of what you experienced during the Geneseo C2D1, not R2D2, C2D1. I want to say it correctly. At the Geneseo College, where you went to college, and there was a dorm room where you had this bad, negative experience in your life, and it impacted you so greatly that you wrote a book. You wrote about it, and you met all these people that were impacted by it, and it brought all these people together and influenced you to become the person you are today. And you were such an outgoing, positive, great personality out there in the paranormal community, not just the paranormal community, but as a person in general. And you're such a good friend. We've known each other a long time. So, guys, without further ado, I want to thank Mr. Christopher DiCesare for being on the Strange Oddities Podcast.
Well, I love this opportunity.
It's been a while. We haven't hooked up in a while, but it's been a while, so I'm sure we have a lot to talk about and share with our listeners and viewers. Guys, if you want to chat with us during the show, just comment on Facebook or YouTube and chat away, ask a question. If you have any questions about anything, feel free. And hopefully we can answer them, to your question. What's up, Mara? Mara's in the chat. Want to say hello to her.
Oh, love you. Heart gesture.
Yeah. What's going on? So, where do we even start, man? I mean,
no math, right? Hopefully no math.
No math.
Right.
No, I've had a long day. I can't do math. Plus, I've had a lot of sun today, and I don't think the numbers would jive in my head correctly. But so tell everybody a little bit about yourself, because we haven't had you on my new show, Strange Oddities Podcast. You've been on previous shows. But for those who don't know who you are, tell a little bit about, who's Chris?
Well, I am basically a person who was exposed to the paranormal, kind of by mistake, I suppose. I experienced what they call an extreme haunting at Geneseo College. back in the 1980s. And for a number of years, I had a hard time trying to put that in perspective. It seemed at the time to be very negative. But then over the years, I realized that just surviving something, the act of enduring something, whether it be medical diagnosis, loss of a person you love, trauma, addiction, we all have these things that we go through. Mine happened to be what's called extreme haunting, just a little more rare than most. But I learned some important things, and I was very, very lucky to have in my life people along the way to help guide me, to believe in me, and to push me forward to believe in myself. Jeff Unger, who was at the college with me, who had the foresight to record on these volumes of notebooks all the events that were happening with the attacks and the voices and the events that would happen with the blessings and the suicides and things. Without him, there'd be no Ghost Boy to be here with you. Then folks like Bill Edwards and Mark Atria, who saw value in these notes and this experience and decided to create a film called Please Talk With Me that allowed me to focus on what I wanted to, and that is what you learn from trauma, not so much the ghost itself, because not everyone understands about ghosts, but I figured we all know about trauma and how do you survive those things. And that led to things like the Sci-Fi show and Travel Channel show and all these different things. And I've been very lucky, Matt, that people have found value in what happened to me, and hopefully I can bring some positivity to their lives. But again, it's all about people, thankfully, trusting in me and putting stock in me, including my wife, my children, and my little granddaughter, who's my little ray of sunshine. But I'm very fortunate. I'm very thankful to be here. It's a tough time for many people nowadays with the COVID pandemic ravaging through. And I think, if anything, it lets us realize how lucky we are if we do survive these things.
Right. And for those who don't know what the C2D1 haunting is, that's the room number, if I remember correctly, of where you stayed and where the haunting took place. So that's where that comes in. So you want to, what got you to think of labeling it the C2D1 haunting? Was it because of that exact room and experience, or was it just something else?
It was privacy. I wanted privacy. Okay. Whenever you hear the word ghost, someone will say, "What?" and pay attention. Right. I don't want the story, the experience to get out. I want to understand it first. It's important to control your life, to control like where you live and what you eat and who you associate with. And it's the same way with the haunting. It became this big national story. I lost control so fast. I don't like that feeling as a teenager. And so Jeff and I decided, and Paul as well, and a bunch of us, instead of saying the word ghost, we would say things like, "How are things in C2D1?" It's a room number. And it was the C building, second floor, D quad, first room, my room in Erie Hall at Geneseo State University. So that's why it became known as that. Sounds like a droid, I know, a droid. Maybe droid sex between C-3PO and R2-D2. I know how to cover your ears, kids. But but that's the reason why. It wasn't for marketing purposes or because the room itself might have been special. It's just it was a way for us to hide really what was happening until we finally got a grips on what it was, how we handle it, and then how do we share it? Because unlike today, there are so many TV shows about ghosts and so many stories out there. And back in the 80s, there just were not. And there was no guideline. There's no template to follow. We didn't have like black shirts. We didn't have to cross our arms. We didn't have to be on TV and knock doors down. There was nothing like that. And so that was just, a great question. Our way of controlling what we could and not get the story out there too far, because what was happening in the room was kind of scary in terms of hearing voices. Once in a while, there's a physical attack. But people like Telephone Tag began saying things that weren't there, like, "Oh, he's talking to the ghost. They're friends. He controls the ghost. He's the ghost boy. He talks. He keeps beyond the dead." Meanwhile, I'm going down the hallway screaming for this thing. But the thought people had was, "Oh my gosh, here's a guy that he's talking to. This guy, the ghost whisperer. How amazing!" And I couldn't be that person. It just wasn't real.
Yeah, and I think what was great about that situation, and how everything kind of grew from that situation that you experienced is, the college and everybody around you, I think, respected the way you handled what you experienced and how you grew from that and the path it took you down and how you treated the situation. And, I think that's how you connected well with everybody around you too, with the way you handled yourself with it. And you came out with it with a positive outlook, instead of like, there's a lot of paranormal TV shows and a lot of networks that look for the scary stuff. Right. And I loved your perspective and how you handled your experience and the way you handled it.
Thanks.
I don't know how you can not respect that.
Thank you. I think one of the things that I realized as a young kid is that you should appreciate what you have. A lot of times we get sick or hurt and we think, this is horrible. I was going to be normal and happy again. Then we're healthy again and we forget. The things bother us. We lose track that we can walk again or we can breathe again. So we sometimes we forget to be thankful. And I was so gratified, so blessed to have people around me, as I said, at the college, my family, over the years to support and lend their guidance, that I realized I can't forget that. And if I want to be a good person, I always wanted to be a good person if I could, no one's perfect, but I wanted to be good, then you have to show the gratitude back. And so I made it a choice 10, 12 years ago to try to be as positive as I could be, not because it's fake or fun or it looks good for ratings, but because it's genuine. I really want people to understand, to enjoy their food, taste it. Enjoy your food. Listen to music. Dance sometimes. Just enjoy the sounds of the singer's voice or the music of the rhythm. Just talk to your friends. Just take a little bit of time once in a while with your friends. Sit back and just relax and chit chat, because life goes so fast, and we always want to focus on the negative things, especially with the news the way it is, right? And so I just made a choice at some point in time, Matt. I can't share the exact date, but I said, you know what? If I'm going to share this, I'll do it in a very positive way. There's enough negativity out there, and that's just my way.
Right. And we connected, so well because we had mutual friends that said, I think you should share your story with Chris because you guys have similar, situations or experiences, and we could relate very well to each other because of what we experienced, even though they were two completely different things. But and that's how we became close friends, and which I appreciate the path that you helped me kind of guide me into different paths of my life too. And I'll never forget that. And I don't know, I mean, it's just funny how people can connect with what you share, and I'm sure you've connected with so many different people all across the world, and it's like amazing, like the people that you impact.
Well, I like that. That's my hope. And a lot of times people will sit back and think, why am I here? Well, I'm going to make sure I know why I'm here, is because I want to share some positivity, and this way I don't have to question that. And I'm always lazy, but I don't want to have to wonder years later, did I do enough? I'm going to do what I can to do that. And some people respond well to books. Some respond well to movies. Some to live communication, on a stage. Some people respond well to video games. So, whatever has been involved in, I always try to put some kind of nuance in there about the haunting, but also about being thankful for what they have at that moment, And, if you work in a school, I've worked in a school, you see some students, some kids have a lot, and some kids have very little. You hope that the kids that have a lot in their lives appreciate that fact. You hope the kids that have very little aren't angry about it, and they do something to improve their own situation so that they can be happy as well. And you hope that people in general, even if they have a tough life, tough childhood, you can't go back, but you can go forward. And, if your parents were bad to you, then remember that and don't do that to your own kids. If your parents were good, then try to emulate what they did and share those things. And I think that goes for parents, for educators, for doctors, for friends.
Yeah. Absolutely. How long did it take you guys, you and your best friend and people around you, with the notes and things that you've gathered, to put all this together into a bigger perspective for your, future endeavors from that moment on? How long did it actually get you guys to piece everything together to say, all right, this is what we have. What are we going to do with it? 25 years. A long time. I didn't want to talk about it for two reasons. The first reason is kind of shallow. I don't want to be judged by people. I know, the guy's crazy. He must be doing drugs. He's on something. He wants attention. They don't know if such things go. So I don't want it to affect when I was young, I was 19 years old. I didn't want it to affect my career, my relationships, anything like that. So a shallow reason first. The second reason though was I didn't want to share it in a negative way. Everything is evil, all things are bad, there's no hope. And it took decades for me to realize the interesting thing about the haunting is it can be survived, like other things. And so I thought, if I can just share the things I learned during those months of literal horror, that might be good for anybody to listen to, even if I think it's a story. Star Trek, Star Wars, alluded to, Game of Thrones, they're not real. People love them.
they're iconic shows and movies, and we have conversations about them, and we have, we save collectibles for those things, and we have favorite characters. But those stories, they talk about the human experience. And so in my situation, it was real. So I had to be careful. I don't want to make a joke of it. I don't want to blow out of the water where it's not realistic. How do we share something that's factual in a meaningful way? And I was lucky again that, well, first of all, decades went by to think about in my head how to share it. But, Bill Edwards and Mark Atrio, who I mentioned before with the film Please Talk With Me, I wasn't sure the movie was a great idea, but they promised me that whatever they put in, I could review. Because I didn't want it to become some kind of joke or exaggeration. And they gave me their word. And I learned after the first week or so, they meant it. And so as they went through the script, I was able to adjust the script to make it more accurate, because Jeff's notes are written from his point of view, which he's a primary source, but not necessarily my point of view. He's interpreting what I saw and what I heard, what I smelled, what I felt. So it was interesting for me to be able to explain why I said that, or what I heard exactly, because at the time I was too scared to do that. And so it kind of fleshed things out a little bit. And they were so honorable. They wanted to honor me and my friends so much that they recreated sets, movie sets. Get this old building. It looked like a haunted house on the outside, just all falling apart. But inside was amazing. The dorm room was there. Dr. Castro's office was there. Just amazing. B2, the girls' room was there. Just amazing what they do. And they had the same blankets, the same pictures on the wall, the same books. So they tried so hard to succeed in recreating the environment, so that allowed myself and Jeff and others like Linda and Beth to step forward and revisit in a safe way. And they were so amazing. They get the actors who would look and sound like us. In fact, at one moment in time, they're shooting a scene, and the character playing Jeff yelled out on the scene, "Chris!" And I said, "What?" I'm like, it was to the actor Chris, but it seemed so real. I responded, cut. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's because they did such an amazing job of trying to get it accurate, because we were real people. And so when Linda Fox saw it for the first time, or Craig Norris, or Jeff saw it for the first time, or many of my friends, Beth Kinsman, they were blown away. They cried. They cried that Bill as producer, Mars director, Carrie Lyon as the lead camera person, etc. Alan Lewis was involved. A lot of people were involved. They're good, They felt so blessed that they were remembered in a positive way. And see, in Sci-Fi, by the way, Sci-Fi was concerned about the film, because Sci-Fi is more about explosions, special effects, boom, 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 and they wanted to jump.
Scary too. Yeah.
Mark Burnett wanted to jump on this, see The Survivor, and he said, I want these 6 episodes, make them an hour long. He negotiated with Mara and Bill to say, please hold yours first. Let us get the first out there to the media. Let's get that first, because they spent $900,000 on the show, and then once we did that, you can put yours out. Is that okay? It was smart for 2 reasons. Sci-Fi got the bump, the advertising, and that made it out there. And then Please Talk to Me can ride the wave of popularity and say, okay, here's how it's shown dramatically. Here's how it felt realistically. So people could then get an idea of what the difference between television is versus reality, or like a docudrama. And I thought that was pretty fascinating, And so again, my trust in people is what allowed us to put everything together. But even after the Sci-Fi show, and I didn't write the first book, Tim Shaw did. I didn't know how to even put those things down. So Tim Shaw, who had studied the case for 10, 12 years, spiritualist minister up in Buffalo, he wrote the first book, and so then things started to happen. And then eventually people said, why don't you, write something? And so then I wrote my memoir, which looks kind of like this, right? And then even cooler than that was 2 years ago, this came out. This is a case study with the priest who blessed the room, the police officer investigated the case, with the director of the film, Jeff wrote the journal notes. I mean, this is incredible, So the first person looking at the case was Alan Lewis. Yeah, the person analyzed the photo negative. So case study. And I like that, because then people who are involved in the process of sharing the story also get some of the acclaim, because it's all about the ghost boy. Well, no, it isn't really about the ghost boy. It's about who is with the ghost boy and how he survived because of their respect, love, and friendship.
Right. Well, not only all that, but I also think around the time that you had this experience, it was sort of a time period too where it was kind of taboo-ish.
Yeah.
And I think you were kind of afraid to bring it out because it was taboo kind of topic and subject, and you didn't really know who to who to trust and who to share it with, and I think that probably held you back too.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I hope it's not off color. My dad told me two things when I went to college. He said, number one, keep it in your pants. Number two, don't think it's stupid. And I was over two. But yeah, it's the way you share something is very important, like the way you say something. So if I say to somebody, oh, you're smart, I'm implying they're not. If I say, you're very smart, that you are. So I say the same exact words, but the tone, the way you say it, could change the entire meaning. Yeah. So I had an opportunity way back in the day, way back in the 80s, to go on TV and to film some of these things. And that would have been fun. I would have probably been big parties, made lots of money, because at the time, all that was out there was the Amityville Horror, and The Shining, things like that. There was almost nothing out there. It was the occult back then. But I knew enough to say, don't know, because I didn't understand things. When you don't understand things, people take control of you. What you mean to say is this. What he means is this. All of a sudden, you've lost control of your own legacy. I don't want that. And some people think, gosh, you waited 25 years to share it? Yeah. It was important to me because I want to make sure it's shared realistically, because, again, it wasn't a joke. People suffered, were knocked unconscious, bled. People committed suicide. We had a psychology professor involved with the recording of the EVPs. We had a priest come and bless the room. It wasn't, a joke thing where two guys smoking pot in the basement and look at the fireplace through the eyeballs. It was a serious thing day after day.
Yeah. And not only that, the college and the people of the college and where you went to college, they got to be careful too, because, if they go out in the public with it, it could hurt their reputation and people around them. And
back then, yes. Back then, Matt, they didn't want anything said about it at all. Right. It was a negative thing. Keep it under your hat. Please don't say anything.
Right.
But when the sci-fi show came out and the movie came out and the books came out, it became a race. People want that room now. Now on the tours, the orientation, they say, here's the ghost room. Yeah. And I was back there 2 winters ago, and I just stop in now and then. I'm visiting friends, and I sneak in the college dorm. In the old days, you had keys and I had these cards, but I follow people in like a creeper. I sneak in, and I walked by the dorm, and in the area, they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's the ghost!" They knew who I was, and there's on the wall pictures of me and the TV show and the ghost. It's like a shrine. So how unbelievable is that? I used to run to get out of there. Now they have everything back in there. The world changes kind of fast.
Yeah, and I think a deli around the corner too. Didn't they name something, a sandwich?
Yeah. They had a salami and cheese sandwich called the Ghost Boy Special. Yes, that's hilarious. And cookie sub shop, they're the best.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was cool. When I heard that, I was like, yeah, I would love a sandwich, named after me.
Who would have thought? I thought it'd be like a long distance runner, maybe you're working in a bank, something like that. Who would have thought I'd be running around the country talking about ghosts and having sandwiches named after myself? But again, I have to be careful how I don't want to celebrate too much, because not everyone has the opportunity to do those things.
Yeah,
and I appreciate the fact that these things have been afforded to me, and so I just want to make sure I say that. It's like, oh, let's have a sandwich named after him. Oh, but it's a funny thing. I like it. It's nice, and I make sure people understand though that I take it tongue in cheek.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you had. It was an honor and privilege to be invited to.
I'm glad you were there. Yes.
Yeah, the 30th. I can't believe how long ago that was now. Yeah. The 30th anniversary that you had, and that was great to meet all those people and how well that was all set up and actually experience. Actually being there was something totally like mind blowing.
Yeah, that was amazing. Back 30 years later, in the location basically where it occurred, where I saw Ed and Lorraine Warren speak back in the day, and have people come forward after 30 years and share parts of their experience. And I hadn't really talked to most of them before then. For Craig Norris, for example, I hadn't seen him since May of 1985. And then I walked across the campus, and so is he. Just the two of us, like, what on earth? And we said hello, and that was we talked since then. Now we talk some more, but it's amazing too how the haunting, for its negative aspects, has preserved friendships, has created like a relationship, almost like we're family, having to survive those things. No matter how we vote, what sports team we like, what our ideas are about life, those things bond us together. Those events.
Sure. Who was the one person or multiple persons, maybe other than Jeff, that you thought of going to when you had this experience? Was there a person of confidence that you had confidence in that you could share it with before, with Jeff or anyone else? Was there?
No, I didn't want to tell anyone, and I shared by mistake. What happened was I was in the dorm room, And I'd been hearing some voices call my name. That's really weird. It must be a practical joke by one of my, suite mates. I tried to ignore it. And then my roommate, Paul, a few months before I panicked and ran out of the room, was saying that, there's shadows in the room, that they're blocking his light, and stop doing that. And I explained to him, I'm reading a magazine. I know what you're talking about. So that was weird. And I remember I took out a box of hot tamales to eat candy, calm my nerves. And I noticed someone standing behind me, and that's impossible. I'm on the second floor. It's February. The window's closed. We're 20 feet in the air. The door's in front of me, and yet there's a person standing over my shoulder for sure. And I thought, this is silly. Count to 10. I started to count 1001, 1002. I got to 7. I could still see it in the corner of my eye. So I turned, big mistake, and then I saw this thing standing in the room, and it looked as though the head was tilted a bit, as the neck was broken. The eyes were blank. The head would move forward a little bit like this, and then the legs, the thighs of this being, this ghost spirit, whatever we want to call it at the time, was in the stereo, like the vision from WandaVision. He was actually coming out of the stereo, which is impossible. So I screamed. I threw the candy in the air, and I was a track runner. Boom! I bolted, and I ran to the hallway. And the first door that I went to was the first door that was available. Was Jeff and Ed. And bang, bang, bang! Oh my god! Oh my god! So I didn't. It wasn't like people plan things out. I put this on Facebook now. It's about Instagram. Do I share this? It was sheer panic and terror. I ran into the room. I opened the door. I fell on the ground. I got in a fetal position like a baby, rocking back and forth, which was unusual for me. I was usually very popular and confident and outgoing, And I kept saying, I panicked. I panicked. The panic was worse than the ghost that I saw, because it meant that it affected me to where I can't control my own emotions. And that's a really bad thing, no matter when you are in your life, And so Jeff was in the room and, said, why did you panic? What are you talking about? And I said those words that I didn't want to say. And I said, I saw a ghost. It's in my room. And that's how the sharing began. But I said to Jeff, please don't tell Paul, my roommate. Please don't tell anybody. And for a number of days, only he knew, because I didn't know if it was in here or out there. Is it a gas leak, a practical joke, drugs in our food, hypnosis, mass hysteria? I mean, I have a science-based mind, and so I began to check things off to eliminate. And then after about 4 days, there was one thing left: the horrible thing, paranormal for me. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can't imagine having an experience like that and having nobody there to really be able to share that with, and having to find somebody where you could. How hard that was, and how traumatizing that was, because like you said, you don't know what it was. And at the time, it's like, what could have it been? And having the mindset that you had no way of describing it exactly to someone else, that you weren't sure how was they going to react to you describing it to them. Yeah,
psychosis and ghost hunting often have hauntings of the same phenomena, with hearing voices and self-harm and delusion. So I was well aware of the fact that I could be losing my mind. I didn't think that I was, because I had a good grasp on my schedule still. I was still functioning in college for a little while. I could still run, communicate. So I was smart enough to realize that I didn't think it was psychosis, but you always know. Sometimes your vision, your perspective is skewed by the very fact you have it. And that's why it's very important for Jeff to start recording things for me in the notes, what time things were happening, what was eaten, the temperature outside, the location of things, to look for patterns that we could assess and analyze once the terror moved away for a few hours. And so it wasn't done to share. It wasn't done to make things famous. It was done from my own thought gratification. I had to go see a psychologist, perhaps. Eventually, they were used to share with the psychology professor, Dr. Kessler, and then with Father Charlie Manning, the priest, because eventually we need to reach out to adults that we thought were an authority, college, church, things like that, who were educated, and maybe help us. Because again, Jeff was very smart, always been very smart, and I was very energetic, very positive, but we're teenagers caught in this world of the phantasms, with the moving shadows and yells and physical attacks and cold flashing clocks and cold breezes and orbs. It was bizarre.
Was there any other students at the time that had an experience outside of yours at that time period, or years after? Have anybody come forward about the things that went on there?
I have to plead ignorance for one reason. I didn't necessarily follow ghost stuff. I didn't think it was legit, so to speak. I'm sorry to say, I just didn't know it was. I knew there was Jesus and Casper, and in between, who knew it was there, So I didn't know it was possible for people to be haunted for real, or possessed for real or things like that. It never even crossed my mind. And so I always hear stories about places, even if you're a kid, about the guy with a hook on his hand or lady in white by the road. There's always these, Indian burial grounds. I always heard those.
Urban legends.
That maybe those were parents saying, "Woo, go to sleep, kids. We have a nice time." I always thought they were used for a particular point, not because they were real. I do know that there were rumors at the time of a boy ghost. I think his name was Eric, in one of the halls down the road from me, but I didn't put much stock into it. I know that Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated that, and I heard of a story which I thought was ridiculous at first, of a floating coat or something like that in Geneseo Hall, where people walked in the room, this coat was floating there impossibly, and they all ran out in terror. But that sounded like maybe they were drunk. But again, I shouldn't judge. But there was nothing really that I could relate it to. Although once this haunting began to spread, because once you have photographs of ghosts or things, or tapes of ghosts, people start talking about it. You can't stop that from spreading. That just goes. It goes boom, 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 boom. And so within 2 weeks, almost everyone knew something was going on. Maybe not the exact details, but luckily Beth was there to assist, and so was Linda, and a lot of people remained around. Some people just said, Chris, I'll get back to you on that. We'll hang out some other time. The idea of a ghost made my friendship not necessary, and that was hurtful because I hadn't changed in one bit. But because of my surroundings, suddenly I couldn't be their friend. And that happens because of people's religion or their gender or their race or their age. So not to that degree with me, but I had a taste of how that felt for being judged by something you just can't control. But luckily I still have people around me. The haunting really took off in terms of its notoriety in the school after the attack. And that was March 10th of 1985. The priest had come to bless my room, 4 days earlier. And I thought it was all over. It's amazing, And then on March 10th, though, I was in the shower and I looked up and I saw the silhouette of the ghost with the bent neck and tilted head. And I thought, how's that possible? The priest took care of that thing, And it's a small bathroom. There's one shower stall. There's 2 sinks with mirrors to shave and brush your hair and teeth. And one little toilet. That's it. And a big sliding wooden door. So I ran out there and I ran out in the middle of the bathroom, almost fell on my head because the floor's all wet. It's a tile floor. And there was the thing. And I thought, wait a second. The light source is there. My shadow's on the ground. That can't be. There's no light source. Okay, must be the ghost. I'll go back in the shower, turn the water off, then call the priest or call somebody because here we go again. And I got in the shower and it felt like I was stabbed in the back with a knife. I turned, I swung, I knocked the shower curtain off the railing of the hook, boom, and there was nobody. And I screamed, who are you? What are you? Show yourself. You coward. And then I looked in the mirror above the sink to see what was my back. Was it a knife? And it were these 3 long scratches, basically parallel, different lengths, bleeding. I thought, what the hell's that? What is that? I'm a good person. I don't hurt anybody. Why is this happening to me? Then I thought, what? Can the sad sack story? How many Jews were killed? Millions in the Holocaust. They had lives and dreams and prayed and cried and sang. And I've seen piles and piles of their naked corpses outside the gas chambers. And from that, I realized you can't always be saved. Sometimes life will happen to you. So can that? What do I do? I said, well, this is my time. I'll go out bravely. No face for mom to see in the casket. No horror face. Just make a calm face for my mom to see in the casket because I'm probably dying. And then because of either the cold or the shock or the pain, I fell over onto the floor. And just lay on this grout floor, just lay there. I saw one thing. I saw a droplet of water on my wrist, like a pear shape. I just looked at it, and it was glistening. And I could see in the droplet of water, the room inverted. I'm like, refraction. Water refracts light. That's science. I like science. I'm looking at this. I'm like, I'm not going crazy. This is real. And then it fell. I'm like, oh, my water dropped. But wait, if it falls, gravity pulled it down. That's science. Refraction, science, gravity, science. Look down. And the grout in the tile was wet, darkened from moisture. That's science. So I realized I wasn't crazy. I was seeing things as they are. I just can't control my life anymore. And I can't put my brain back together again every day. I'm going to get tired. It's going to win. It's going to own me. I don't want to die, but how do I live? And I was ready just to give up all hope then. And the door opened up. And Jeff came running in. Heard me screaming once before. And he put a towel around me, pulled me out of the bathroom. And Linda came running in and Beth. And they all like, oh, my God. And once that attack happened, all down my back, you can't not have people talk about that. And
Right.
The most important thing from that moment was this. Jeff wanted a photograph of my wounds on my back. It was important to document things as they occurred. This is physical evidence of an attack, which seemed pretty important,
Yeah,
you know.
sure.
But I looked at him and I said, "Please don't. No, the lights. No, Jeff, please. I needed a friend first, not ghost spy. I needed to know I could." I said, "Jeff, if you're my friend, you put the camera down." And he said, "I'm your friend." And he put the camera down. I knew right then and there, buddy for life, that he was there first for Chris, the ghost boy, the ghost was second. Now, looking back, it'd been a great picture. I was too bad I was in that state of mind. I wish I was the picture of that. But at the time, I didn't want proof. I wanted friendship.
Right.
And I think that's very telling of sometimes. Sometimes you just want things to end because it's more important than proving it to people. And so that was a scary time for me.
Yeah, and actually, with everything you just said, you beat the punch to my next question, which was
sorry.
No, I was gonna. My question in that was, if you had felt like targeted or attacked, or like if you had this fear in you that it was gonna like kill you, basically, and yeah, it's like I can't imagine that it probably did.
Absolutely. The first thing about that, because remember, I'm trying to make inferences in my head what's happening here. I don't understand things, so I'm trying to get clues. Yeah. So once I realize that I'm actually seeing and hearing it, I figure out then why is it here and what does it want? And it would almost always say, Chris. Paul heard it say, Chris. He told me, right out of the room, go, oh my God, someone just called your name and nothing's there. So I knew it wanted me. I didn't know why. That's okay. But then it began to get creepy where I'd be sleeping at night and I feel its fingers on my foot. Like, put my leg in, or I'd wake up in the morning, its face would be right there, like being my air out of my mouth, my face being numb. I'd run down the hall, or I'd be in my room getting changed and the door would open up, the closet door. I'd be like, it felt like it wanted to control me or possess me or own me. And when it looked at me, I had to cover my body up. And I ran track cross country. I used to streak across the college campus. I was not sure about my body. But the way that it looked at me, from behind the darkness of that closet door, it scared me, and I didn't want to be. It changed how I felt about myself. Sometimes it was a very powerful thing. You know how sometimes they say that people who are mean will try to control you emotionally, and try to trick you and you think they're your friend, but they're not. Like people who groom people who control are very domineering. They try to, and so it felt almost like it was trying to eventually break me down. Through the fear, through the exhaustion, and then finally through the physical attacks. It didn't attack, though, until the blessing happened. So it was happy in the room, if I could say that. It liked being there. But we couldn't survive, Paul and I, in that environment. It was hard to sleep or do anything. And so calling the priest to the room was essential for our survival, our mental health. And he came down there, and he did. He had the holy water and the Bibles, and the prayers. He had the incense, the candles, and he performed the ceremony. It wasn't like on TV where there's explosions and pea soup, it was a nice, beautiful ceremony with all these prayers to St. Michael. Yeah. And we thought it was over at that point in time. And I don't know how it worked, but it seemed like it was over. And to have that vicious attack just 3.5, 4 days later, it let me know one thing. I can't stop it. It's going to get what it wants, and I can't stop it. I can't go through a wall. I can't disappear. I'm bringing a knife to a gunfight, and so once I realized you can't bless 40 rooms, it's not going to go away. What do you do? And so Jeff decided, and Beth, let's go talk to a psychology professor, Dr. Kastler, and he had written stories about ghost stuff. So we went to see him, and he said, this is pretty fascinating. I've traveled all the country, and right in my back door, it's happening. So he encouraged us to get evidence. No cell phones back then, no camcorders. So we had a Maxell cassette tape thing. We had a 35mm camera with four negatives left in it. We had to be careful with what we had to use and maximize our. There was no 9 hours to a tape the following day. After the investigation, it was just we only had a couple shots to make, and that was it. And then the photographs, you have to send them away. You can't just look at the photographs. You can't delete them. I mean, you might send them to Rhode Island, come back 2 weeks later. They're photographs. You don't know if you have anything. With the tape was interesting. When the ghost started talking on the tape, my friends were amazed. They're amazed that I had said, please talk in this box. It'll save your words. And then when I come into the room, I'll listen to your words and see what you want. Because you keep saying my name. I don't know what you want. And so I was hoping it wouldn't work because I don't want the responsibility of having to help it. But when it said Chris and growled and help me, everyone was happy but me. They're like, oh my gosh, this thing talked in our language. It responded to your cue. It understands you. This is amazing. This is like historic. I sat on the ground and cried because they said, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't help it.
Yeah.
It said, help me. I said, you're all happy because of what it said. I get that, but I can't help it. What does that mean now? Now what do I do? Now I know what it wants and I can't meet that expectation. So this is really tough. It's kind of like if people say, let's go and fight after 9/11. Let's go fight against terrorism. Let's go fight. Yay, yay. And then it comes time for you to be, you sign up and then you think, oh my gosh, I hope I can do this. I believe in democracy and freedom, but what if I, lose a leg, or if I don't see my family ever again? What if there's a suicide? I mean, so sometimes the idea is there, but the reality of actually doing something can be very different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Being all this traumatic experience, did you feel that you maybe thought maybe I should go see a psychiatrist or get some, professional help? What should I do to actually talk to somebody about that? Like, did you at some point think of that, or?
Well, initially, my first thought was my brain snapped because I'm seeing this dead person in my room where it can't be there. There's no way a person can have gotten in the room. There's no way they can be in a stereo and out of stereo at the same time. There's no way the neck could be that way and the person can still breathe. This is impossible. That's why I panicked, because I was seeing the impossible. And I knew that. And so when I talked to Jeff and Jeff said, write these notes down, it was done for the purpose of seeing what my brain was doing. What am I thinking? And but we began to realize that there were patterns now. And that there was actually an environment that he could see as well, like things moving and doors opening and cold drafts in the room, or Paul saying he sees the same thing. We began to get confirmation independently without any sharing of the same thing happening. We began to realize, both of us, it's not in here, it's out there. But that was worse for me. I'd rather be here, go to therapy, get a pill, than to have a dead thing in my room given a choice, because I was not predisposed to the paranormal. I didn't like, yeah, cool. I used to see Herman Munster and go, ooh, and I was, like, it's scary. And the monsters.
See, that was a good segue question to go into the the documentation and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get into all that.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, but yeah, to have him be able to take notes down and document it on photograph and all that was, helped you.
Yeah, and he's epic. He is epic. Yeah. His handwriting looks like it's calligraphy.
Yeah.
It always has, always was, and he just, I can't say enough positive about John Jeff Unger. I used to call him Jeff. Now he's really cool. He has 3 names, but he could catch fish with his bare hands in the stream. He could quote poetry. He knew science. He knew history. He knew religion. He was a photographer. He was an artist. He could sing. He could play instruments. He was like a true Renaissance man, and I was so intrigued by him. The only person in my life I admired so much at that point in time was my dad, who was an educator, a principal things, and I was amazed. There's their second dad. There's a second person out there who's just that amazing. But out of all the qualities that I liked the most, it wasn't those things. It was the fact that he could find value in other people's success. So in other words, let's say, for example, you run the mile in 5:20. I might say, I'm doing 5:10, whatever, right? He would say, that's great. 5:20 is amazing. He could just enjoy other people's success. I thought, what a nice quality that is. What a good quality to say, I appreciate you for who you are, not against me. Like, as a runner, it was always a competition. Every time it's me against the world, me against you. So I always thought, like, it's a contest. Yeah. And he made me realize during the course of this haunting, you don't have to make it about against somebody. You can be a team. Yeah. You can actually work together. And so it became a great symbiotic relationship between he and I. And I remember even thinking, I wish I had known him growing up, because he was such an amazing person. He thought I was kind of brave. He liked the fact that I laughed a lot. I could run around naked and things like that. That was a hilarious thing. I loved him for all of his kindness and his generosity and the way he could empathize with people. And I remember thinking, I wish that his parents and my parents were friends. I wish for years that they could be friends who will hang out together. But people have their own interests in lives, and you're 5 hours apart. You really can't be best friends with the family being that far apart. But I love the guy. I really do. I love his mom, love his dad. I loved all his sisters and brothers, and like a second family to me. And I'm very glad we're still friends 40 years later. We still talk, and I've been blessed to have a brother I never had.
Yeah, nice. For those who are joining us in the show late, I just want to remind everybody that we're talking with, if you don't see the banner across the bottom of the screen, which I added a few minutes after we started the show, we have Mr. Christopher DiCesare, the Ghost Boy. He's nicknamed the Ghost Boy of Geneseo, the C2D1 Haunting. There was a film called Please Talk With Me. They've been featured on the Sci-Fi Channel. Chris also appeared on School Spirits and other paranormal themed TV shows. I have to ask this because I asked you earlier in the week. I said, I can't believe he's speaking with William Shatner. How was your conversation with William Shatner?
People who act often take on different roles. And so you don't know for sure if they're being themselves or somebody else. And that's pretty amazing, right? So he can be the Denny guy from Boston Legal. He could be TJ Hooker. He could be the guy from Airplane Movies. He could be Captain Kirk. That's who he was for me. I still watch the reruns on Me TV, of Star Trek every Saturday night, because I love the concept of exploration, of teamwork, of just getting out there and learning about life and solving problems. I loved it, and I've always admired him. I've been here for Halloween like 10 times, and I had a mutual friend, and I thought, you know what, let me just reach out, because he just turned 90. I think, I always say to myself, I'll do it next time. Then you don't have the opportunity. So I made the contact, and he would talk with me for a few minutes. And we'll do it again probably in May. It wasn't a thing like interviewing somebody, it was a conversation about life, about curiosity, about what he thinks the world's like, after death, about his experiences. So I feel blessed to have, I keep thinking the word I do, to be able to talk to one of my icons, and he's a very nice person. I really enjoy it. First of all, 90 is incredible, but he says, he's very curious. He said, if one word to describe him, he's curious. He's always wondering about cultures and vibrations of energy and what happens after you pass away. And he was sharing with me about when he was young. He was leaving Toronto, Canada, that area, crossing a bridge to start his acting career, and a big 18-wheeler, and everything that he owned was in the car. And a big 18-wheeler came the other direction, almost blew him off the road. And luckily, he didn't go off the road. He didn't die, because he said that if that had happened, it'd be over. And so in that moment, William Shatner, as we know him, kept moving forward. If that truck had gone a different direction for a few seconds, he'd be dead. And so I talked to him about, fate, about what life-changing critical junctures and things like that. And he was saying that most people have 2 or 3 of those, where they just escape by the skin of their chin, and if you're wise, you will look at those near misses and say, okay, what do I learn from those things, and how do I value life? And that was fascinating. And he told me, I didn't have many friends. He said I wasn't a popular kid. I was kind of quiet. I like to act. It wasn't cool back then to act like in Shakespeare, thy, thus, and so he wasn't leaving much behind, he felt, and he had everything to gain by leaving. And he had no clue that Star Trek would be what it became. He knew it was a role. It was stable. It paid pretty well. It food on the table, and he, built his resume up. It was only years later he realized at the conventions, oh my gosh, this character is iconic, and he liked that because he said that Leonard Nimoy made his character. He made it from a Vulcanian to a Vulcan. He invented this, right, which is a Jewish ritual symbol from Hebrew. He created all these things, and William Shatner said on his part he didn't invent the character, but he tried to give it a personality. Deliver all the lines like a hero on the Western frontier, but in space. And so it's just cool to talk with him. That's all. I really enjoy it.
Nice. And I do remember and recall you were on Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah.
How was that? How was your experience with them?
That was cool. That was the only hard part is it's filmed out. It's out west is the station, and so you have to talk at like 2, 3 in the morning. So you're sitting at the kitchen table with a phone that kind of what kind of keep yourself alive. George Norrie, a very, very polite gentleman. He really took the time before the show to find out who I was, what happened, how it affected me. It wasn't just like, next guest. He spoke to you for a while before. And then on the commercial breaks, he would talk to you again and say, well, how you doing so far? Good. Get some water out if you can. I like the book cover of this book. I felt welcomed on his show. And it's interesting because that really pumped that book up for me. I just released that Surviving Evidence book, my memoir, about a month before then. And he sold 9 copies, After that show, it zipped up to like number 4 or 5 the paranormal in the nation. I thought this is incredible, and that was so the sci-fi show in terms of notoriety of The Haunting, and then Coast to Coast in terms of me feeling confident in my writing ability, because I didn't know if I was a writer, and that was so. Again, see, I keep telling you, Matt, it's the truth. People put stock in me, they support me, they believe in me, they push me forward. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do it, and it seems to work out. I don't like to self-promote, and I've always been bad at that, so maybe it's okay. And but I'll tell you, I've had a great run. I met so many cool people, going to so many amazing places, and they invite me. They'll say, "Here, come over here. We'll pay for a hotel room. We'll give you some eating money." I'm like, "This is the best."
Yeah.
And what all I have to do is go there and tell the truth, and care about what the people I talk to, and I can do that.
Yeah. And I'm glad I kind of was a tag along with some of your events, because I would sit at a table that you were doing your book signings or your book sales at events that we've done locally together. And it was cool because I'm like, knowing that Chris wasn't a good self-promoter, I was helping Chris like promote and selling Chris. And I was like, what can I do to be his friend and help him in, accomplishing those things? And I had fun doing it and being there with you and hanging out with you and meeting Chris Quarantino, the
great guy,
the infamous Amityville Horror House.
That's right.
And I couldn't believe that we were in front of like 200 people. And, I was introducing Chris to your speaking engagement there. And you could probably never tell, but I was so nervous in front of 200 people trying to introduce both of you guys.
No, I couldn't tell, but I knew you were geared into it. I mean, I knew you were like all thrusters ahead, because I know it a lot to you, and I was happy for you, because in this field, so to speak, it can be very competitive, and it's hard sometimes to push your way through all the noise to be heard once in a while. Right. And so I think it's nice when anyone's put in a spot where they can be heard. And you're right, you found yourself in that moment in a really cool place with people who care about you and who, at that time at least, could draw a crowd. And that's an amazing thing. And people help people. That's why I invited you personally to the anniversary up at Geneseo. I heard you speak. I heard what happened with you. I liked your honesty, and I asked the promoters, "Can we please have him?" And so it wasn't done to owe me a favor or get me your show. It was done because I believed you would add to the value of that experience. And that's the way I run things.
Yeah. No, I'm honored and privileged I was able to be there and experience that. So, but guys, if you have questions for Chris, please feel free to throw them in the chat. There's a few people in there. I just want to say hello to everybody. If you have questions before we wrap it up later in the show, we still have a little bit of time, but we've covered so much already. I want to make sure I don't leave anything out, because it's not often that I get to have Chris on my show. So, especially with like Chris said, COVID going on, and it's not like we can exactly hang out at events right now and stuff. So, what's your upcoming projects as far as do you have anything in the works as far as I always try to keep busy, whether it works or not. I like to do that. I'm always have these pet projects going on. But one thing I'm very proud of, I think I showed you this book real quick. I'll show it again. This is the case study of The Haunting. It's one of 3 books. The second book is I'm reworking this from 6 years ago, because now we found the negatives, the photographs, we have all the notes now. So I'm revising this in about a month or so. So that'll be book number 2. And then Alan Lewis, who was the first person to investigate The Haunting right when it happened, back all those years ago, is writing a book about what he believes this whole haunting process means, what it is about sensitivity, its psychic ability. So there'll be a trilogy of books, and then there'll be the case study, my experience, what I learned from it, and then the overview of that, and then that'll put a nice bow on that, and I can ride off into the sunset. I've done everything. Are a case study.
It's true. I've done everything. I've been able to go on TV, on radio, movie. I don't need for anything but my health, to see my granddaughter grow up and my family be healthy, and that's the most important thing to me. It really is. And I cherish every single day. I really do.
Yeah.
But you're mentioning about the future too. I'm a bad promoter. I'll be doing a bunch of events starting up if they happen because of COVID. But there's Ocean State Paracon, which is in August in Rhode Island. I'll be speaking up in Corning, New York. That's at the Historic Village. That's right next to the Museum of Glass. And in August, I should be going back to the New Jersey Paranormal Fest, which is September now. right? Gettysburg Battlefield Bashes in July. Should be doing that one as well. I think I'm speaking in Middletown, New York, locally for the Casper Group. So there are some things starting now to open up a little bit. That you can actually go there and fingers crossed, be healthy as a school.
Chris froze up a little bit.
So the protocols are all in place. So I'm comfortable working in the COVID environment as long as the people are.
Yeah. Things are slowly opening back up. I think entertainment venues now are allowed to open back up in some areas and whatnot. Like the first that we heard that, my wife was like, "Oh, I got to get tickets for this one concert that I had to cancel last year. We have to go and try to do it again." And so we grabbed our tickets right away for that. But hopefully things do start, getting back.
You can't pretend you're at a baseball stadium. You just can't do it. It's too hard. You can't pretend you're at a live concert. It's like watching YouTube. And I feel bad saying that. It's the best thing we have available to us. But you're right. I miss the smell of the petrels of the ballpark. I miss the sounds. I miss the experience of things.
Yeah, definitely. There is a question in the chat. I don't want to overlook it. Mel Ann is in the chat with a question. She goes, "Hey guys, Chris, I read your book. You had a few experiences with seeing ghosts other than the C2D1 haunting. Do you still see any from time to time, or are you able to effectively turn it off?"
Who asked that question?
Mel Ann.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you for that question. I'm writing things down because I'm old and forget. I realized during the haunting that this might change me. I don't know how, but most times trauma changes you. And I was afraid that it might open me up to more experiences because that can happen sometimes. And it has. Not long after the haunting ended, which is in late 80, my school year in '85, my family went on vacation to Virginia Beach, Virginia, and we were in this historic building. And my mom wanted a picture of me by this cool table, and actually I'm standing there like this, good son, just the picture, and I heard this clock, this grandfather clock, going bong bong 3 times, bong, and a person's scream go run past me. I'm like, what was that? So in the picture, I'm like this because all things happening, and I'm like, what happened? What are you doing? I said, you didn't hear the noise? No. The lady screaming, her hair's on fire? No. So we set the pictures away, and about a month later, they came back, and there I am, and there's this white mist, this figure with the hair behind me going past me. You see these 3 clock faces at 3 o'clock in the air beside me, just like I had said. So I got goosebumps. So I knew at that point in time that those things would happen, but nothing has been negative or as traumatic as that first thing was. And maybe it was my fault because I didn't understand. Maybe what I thought was very negative or vicious was just desperation. Maybe it was this thing just trying to communicate, me not being willing or able to do so. 2 positive stories real quick. It begins negative, but it turns positive. My grandfather passed away, and I loved him so much. I wanted to be a pallbearer and be part of his funeral. And we buried him on September 8th, 1988, the same day that Mark McGuire broke the home run record. We're coming back, and I watched that happen. A few days later, I was lying in my bed in my bedroom, and I saw in the door frame a silhouette of my grandfather, backlit from the light in the living room. I thought, oh my gosh, the same suit you buried him in? I'm like, so I sat up and I said, Grandpa, you know you're dead, right? And he said, yes, I do. And my wife never sees anything. So I'm like, Rita, wake up. Rita, so I wanted her to see my grandfather because she always wants to see something. And she's like, well, I'm like, okay. So he said, listen, I'm looking for the gray box. I cannot find this gray box. It's important you find the gray box. So I turned back to my wife. I'm like, wake up. You're starting to wake up now. I'm like, good. He's going to see my grandfather. So I tried to stall him. I'm like, you think I'll get to heaven? He goes, no way. And he laughs. I knew it was him for sure then. I was like, very funny. So she wakes up. He's gone. So I get out of bed, make sure it's not a dream. I write down a piece of paper, what he said about the gray box, what time it was, went back to sleep because it was like, 2 in the morning. I woke up in the morning. There was a note. I called my mom. I said, Mom, listen, I'm sorry to bother you. It's your dad, and I know you miss him, but he was in my room last night. What? What did he say? He was looking for a gray box. Well, she said, well, call your Uncle Tom. He might know about that. So my uncle said that my grandpa had a gray box he kept in the basement in Long Island. They moved to Florida. They didn't know what happened to it. So it turns out that they found this gray box in a tool shed, and that was life insurance policy for my grandma. So that was pretty cool. And my grandma, she said to me, before he died, he was looking for something. I said, go to bed, find it in the morning. But he never woke up. So he died thinking of what he had to find. He went to sleep, didn't wake up. And then he came to me a couple days later and said, find this thing. And then we found it. So that's a positive. The other positive I can give you happened at the Shanley Hotel in Napanoch, New York.
Nice.
Where the former owner, Sal Nicosia, great guy. I won this in a raffle. I donated money to Barry Fitzgerald from GHI. He was going up some mountain in Africa to raise funds for kids. So I donated like a thing, and I won overnight stay at the Haunted Shanley Hotel. I didn't know it was haunted. So I was bringing my wife. I found it was haunted. I didn't bring her. She wouldn't go. So I got my friend Jeff. And I said to the guy, listen, not any ghosts. I don't like ghosts. He goes, go in that quiet room over there and just sit there. So I missed the tours. I sat in the room by myself like, then I got bored. So I went out of the rooms. I got bored after 2 hours of being like this. And I went to this one area where they had this bed chamber. A lady was crying in the bed. She's like, some nice guy. I said, can I help you? She looked up, no face. I'm like, oh my God, it's a ghost. It's a ghost. What do I do this to myself? This is always me every time, right?
Oh, man. So
she goes, it's not me. It's the wrong person on the wall. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm so sorry. She goes, the picture is not me. Take it down. Take it down. I said, I'll tell the owner. I don't own the place. I'll let them know that I get out of there. So about 10 minutes later, I found the great room, it's called, the big room where they meet. And he's asking me what they saw, what they found. And they heard like a hum over here and an orb over here. I said, yes. I said, there's a lady upstairs. She's really upset. No, we're all down here now. No, she's a ghost upstairs. She's upset. So I got his attention. And she's, well, what do you mean? There's a picture supposedly in this building. It's taken down. He goes, I'm listening. It's of a woman, but it's not her. He goes, show me the picture. I'm like, I didn't see it. It's in my head. So we walked around and we found this back bordello place. And there on the wall was a picture she showed me. And he goes, wow. What'd you say about that? She said, it's not her. Take it down. He goes, oh my God. I put it there yesterday. People thinking it's the person who lived here. It's not. And so he took the picture down. He said, Chris, you're welcome here 24/7, rain or shine, always. Thank you for helping. Because I wasn't like beating my chest or talking first. I waited, but I wanted to help. So that was another positive thing where, I was able to use this gift or curse or blessing in a positive way. So yes, but and to your question, Melan, more important to me was my children, because now I have a bit of a grasp on these things. I have some experience, but raising children, what do you do? I mean, if you're the ghost boy's son or daughter, does that mean you have to see ghosts too? And my dad was attacked. Will I be attacked? So do I say nothing and ignore it ever happened? Is that healthy? So I had to think about that too, raising children. I thought, here's what I'll do. I will tell my children as they grow up bedtime stories about doctors, dragons, astronauts, teachers, and these stories will include elements of my haunting. This way, they won't have to be scared of ghosts, but can problem solve out of the scenario if it ever happens to them. So I tried as a good dad to say, okay, how do I prepare them for that without leading them on a certain path they don't want to be on? Yeah. And so that was kind of cool. And it was only when they saw me on sci-fi and they saw me on television, oh, Dad, you're so cool. But he had son, they realized that the stories I told them when they were children was my story, just altered around. And so I feel very proud I was able to think about that, and do it that way. Right. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, no, that's cool. She said those are incredible stories. She said thank you. So thank you for the question. So
and no math, that was good.
Yeah, we have another question. Bonnie L. Hi guys, this question might be a bit out of left field, but after reading your book, I'm curious if the possibility of reincarnation has ever crossed your mind.
Well, people read a book. I like that. Thanks, Bonnie. Oh, wow. I hope, my books are like this. The dog went across. They're just kidding. But reincarnation, that's a tough thing.
A whole another ball game.
we are usually shaped by our environment. And so if our family is Hasidic Jew in our upbringing, we believe the Hasidim. If we were raised Roman Catholic, maybe that's our point of view. If we're raised agnostically, if you're raised Hindu, or I think the way you're raised has a great deal to do with what you believe. And as you get older, you begin to make questions some of those things and say to yourself, well, either I'm an investor or not. I love religion. I love talking about religion. I love science. And I don't think that they have to be countervailing forces. I don't think it has to be that way. I think they can work together. I think that religion is used to look at the world and hopefully in a way that you improve yourself and others. And science helps to explain how that can be done. So I like both those things. Reincarnation is tough for me. Let me explain why. I'm not saying I don't believe in it or can't support it. It's just tough for me because it seems to be that most of what happens in the afterlife reflects in some way the physical life. a lot of times people will tell you, and I can't say they're accurate, but people say that this person was angry in life and they'd be angry in death. That in life they were a bit, sassy and they're sad, or vice versa, very quiet and shy. So people seem to suggest, most of the people out there who claim to have experiences, that the spirit seems to take on the persona a bit of the person that it once inhabited or was in. So let's use that as a presupposition for that. All right. So if that is the case, that might not be, then it seems to be that soul then uses that physical body as a step toward another destination. That could be a purgatory. It could be obliteration. It could be becoming part of its essence of knowledge. It could be a heaven where people walk around with the clouds. I don't exactly know how that works per se, but it seems to me that individuality is oftentimes maintained. Now, having said that, I know of cases where people under hypnosis, people in psychological clinics will say, I can speak a language I never learned, or I have memories of a person that I never experienced, but turns out they are true. And the way that over the years, this is just my layman's, talking through these things. The way I've developed that in my mind to understand that is this. It seems to be that one of three things happen. The soul remains here on this planet for a while to finish business or to watch or because they're confused. The soul finds peace. It finds rest. Or the soul is gone. Can't find it. And it might be a process like we're in science, things reproduce or not based on the environment. It is possible some souls do not find that ultimate peace or quantification or final stage of development. It might be recycled back into another opportunity. That is, in theory, possible scientifically because matter energy maintains itself. If that's the case, then you might have a case where someone has that soul energy with memories of that person on it. They can then re-experience because it's not feasible scientifically or even spiritually to have energy just go around it. It doesn't matter anymore. So in other words, everything affects something. So what's the point of having a soul and learning and living and loving and crying, laughing, if all of a sudden go on start over again? That's just me. I could be totally wrong, but my experience tends to suggest that reincarnation, if it exists, is probably a byproduct of a soul development, that you're not actually 9 people at once, or you don't have 55 past lives, although it's possible I've seen to communicate with people in the past. But I think that we are unique to ourselves. I think about we share sound, music, food, ideas. We can share soul energy, perhaps in the spirit. This has gone way too long, isn't it? So I don't invest myself strongly in reincarnation. I can't disprove it. I think that reincarnation is how people explain residual memories left over from prior soul cycle. Where am I at left field now, like you said? Was that a fair answer, Bonnie? I hope it's...
Yeah. I think that was a pretty interesting perspective, though. Your analogy. I love the way you have your analogies and the way you explain things. I think it's great.
Well, I sat in my room just for 20 years thinking about these things. It's like, what do you say to a ghost when you know it's real? What if it says it needs help? How do you help it? So the disadvantage of being quiet for 20 years is no one knew who I was. But the advantage was I could actually emerge 20 years later knowing who I am, what I believe. And so if someone says to me they believe in reincarnation, I can't disprove that. That's fine. My experience doesn't lead me to support that. But hey, I could be just as wrong as anybody else is. I still eat McDonald's. That's really bad for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I one question I have, how has, because, everything has affected everybody with your experience in different ways. How has it affected Jeff and Mara, like after years later? How has it progressed for them in dealing with the aftermath? Oh,
first to Mel and Bonnie, heart gesture.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I should do that. That's okay. Yeah. So I can't just do one after all, so that's not fair. Right. So Mara and Jeff, that's compelling. Jeff, as you know, became my rock. He became the person I turned to for analysis and to trust and to work through things. A brother I never had, a brother. Mara, I met many years later, decades later. But she was the person that I trusted, the first person I trusted to share the story, the experience of the haunting with the public through the film Please Talk With Me. She was young, in her 20s, and she had this unusual, uncanny ability to see the value of things without experiencing them. And she thought, I read about these notes. What an amazing experience. And without saying, well, I'm going to be famous, so I'm going to make myself good. She said, I want to tell you the story or the experience of what happened to you, because it means something beyond just you as people, and the human spirit in terms of friendship and all these relationships. And so I trusted her. And I wondered too that, how do we pick our friends? Do we pick our friends because they're convenient? Do we pick our friends because they're nice to us? Why do we pick them? And in both those cases, I was their friend because I trusted them, I liked them, and they seemed to like me. And those seem to be the three basic tenets for me to have a friendship with somebody. But they were great. And it turned out after the filming was done, the processing of the film, they began to date. And they eventually got married. So my director and my college roommate, through the process of telling this experience, this horror, actually created this wonderful film, and then themselves created an amazing relationship. And I get to be the best man at their wedding. So I can say that two of my best friends in the world are now married, so it makes it easier to stay in contact. I love them. They're great. They're out in Pennsylvania. Jeff works in the rare books archive section of Penn State University. Nice. And Mara's just an amazing artist. She has songs out there, and just
she's got a great voice.
Absolutely. Whenever I hear on the radio, I just have to stop and record it. And but see, that's cool because people that I've been friends with over the years are doing cool things. They're producing records. They're making films. They're writing books. They're doing fundraising events like Bill Evers for McDonald House, making $5,000, $6,000. I mean, I like that I have friends who keep on pushing forward to create and to share. And again, if most of my friends had a beer every Thursday, I have a beer instead. But again, I've been lucky enough to have friends who are around me who have to keep on pushing the envelope to improve the lives of others without being political or without being prosecutorial. Yeah. That's who asked that question? Was that your question?
Yeah, I think so.
That's great. Yeah. What are the odds, right? What are the odds that these two people who figured so prominently in my success and being out there as a person, as like a brand, would get married and find happiness bonding over a story of fear and horror. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm glad, for you guys that not one network or paranormal TV show, or not that I'm saying that that's a bad thing, but I'm just glad that they took your story and made it, the genuine story that you really wanted it to be, because it really was. And that's how you wanted it portrayed, and the way everything has portrayed.
I would otherwise. I would not do it otherwise. I have a nice job. I worked at college a lot, many years. I have a nice job. I have a lovely wife. I have incredible children, a beautiful granddaughter. My parents are still alive. My sisters are, I love them to death. I've got great friends. I don't need to go on a TV show, have my story changed around, put it on Facebook, yay, look at me, and then go. I didn't want to go on television. But my friend said, look, it's NBC, they own Sci-Fi, they want you to go on. Okay, I'll go on, because I didn't think it was necessary. But when I got down there, I said to them, look, I'm not going to have things changed around. I'll just walk away. I don't need this. I'm not 19 looking for publicity. This is something I'm doing because I'm encouraged to. And so they put pressure on you. They always do. You're saying this, you mean that. No. What I said, what I mean. And there were times where with both productions, I was there for an hour and a half. I'd sit there. I'm not saying that. I will not say that. I teach children, special education children who have been abandoned, who have been incarcerated, who have been physically molested, children who have lived in poverty. And I always tell them, speak the truth. Be honest with yourself. And there's no way I'm going to go on TV and lie for a paycheck or for notoriety, because then everything I am is not real. I wouldn't do it to myself. And so I don't go on TV a lot. I go on TV when I feel the offer is genuine. It happens on occasion. I don't actually like going on TV. I get older and more each time I go on, but if I feel that the producer or director is doing the right thing by my friends and I, is honors the story not as a fable, but as a real experience, then I consider that. Yeah. So, but I have a luxury. I don't have to. My fame was put upon me by other people's actions and thoughts, by this thing, by the 1980s newspapers, Chronicle. It happened when I was a kid. I didn't ask for any of it. Right. So, but again, but hiding away for 20 years allowed me to understand, to control my environment. And if no one sees me again, as long as they think I was a good guy, I'm happy. God forbid tomorrow I just drop. That's it. People will know I was happy with my life. I loved my family and friends. I cherished every moment on this planet, and that's okay by me. It's all I need.
And that, sir, is why I respect you greatly.
Oh, thanks.
So we're coming down to the end of the show. We try to keep it like around an hour, but hour and a half. It depends how the conversation's going, how many people are asking questions during the chat, which I appreciate very much for the support of the Strange Oddities podcast from all the people that were in the chat asking questions. I appreciate it. It wasn't many questions, but it was very good questions.
There were quality questions, right?
Quality questions.
Yeah.
Quality over quantity. That's how I always see things. But the positive message that you give to the paranormal community and outside of the paranormal community, I love it. I just wish you nothing but great things for you from this day forward, and the impact that you've made on me and others is just I can't say it enough. It's been great knowing you.
Oh, thank you. I don't take compliments well, so let's be serious now. No, but thank you very much. I feel the same to you, to Josie. I wish and I hope things change soon where we can get together again and socialize in person. But this is a second best solution, and so I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I'll be tagging along to some of Chris's events hopefully soon in the future. Yeah. So where can people find you, get your book, all that great information, share all that with everybody? Yeah,
well, I'm on Facebook. I use it probably too much, but I like see my old high school friends on there. So it's Christopher DiCesare. It's spelled DICESARE on Facebook. There's my personal page, my public page. I can't figure them out. They're the same. What is good by me. There's a website I have, and I should know the name of it. It's called, right? I think it's, one word, realghostboy.com, because that made sense to me. There's a website, too, called CITA Productions, CITA Productions, and they have all the information about books and movies and things that have been done over the years, so it's a nice site to go to. But anyway, anyhow, anywhere, I like speaking to people. I like to hear their ideas. I truly am thankful for the positive reception I get when I go to speak. I truly love the people I get to speak to and interact with. My grandma told me when I was 4 years old, my great-grandma said to me that flowers are like people and children. You water them, you're kind to them, they grow big and strong. I was 4 years old with the watering can by the roses. I never forgot that. She's in my heart. Her garden's gone and she's gone, but it's not going here. She lives on in me. And so I always try to press upon her wisdom, to others. And thank you to all your listeners out there. Thanks to folks who will hear this in the rebroadcast. And thank you to you, Matt, for having me on. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have you on again in the future. That's for sure.
Cool.
This podcast is going to be lasting a very long time. So, yeah, just one of the very cool guests that I have lined up for this month. As everybody saw on the Facebook page or the YouTube channel, wherever it is that you get the Strange Oddities podcast information, follow us on Facebook. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe kindly. Hit that little bell at the top right corner. Please do that. See what else. Don't forget to stop by and give a like and shout out to Paraflix. Go to their website. Give them guys a shout. Make sure you told them that Strange Oddities Podcast sent you there. I'm going to give that information out on my website and give links and everything. I just signed up for that, so I'm getting everything, ready for all that good stuff.
And Bill Brock on the way. Bill Brock on the way.
Yes, Bill Brock is on the way from Monsters Underground. If you ever watched the show, which is a really cool show. It was a different spin on the paranormal, obviously, with cryptids and cryptozoology. They hunt stuff underground, things that make turn your head. And
he's a great human being. He's a really nice person. He really is. So you like when nice people succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Good guy. So I asked him to be on the show, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll be interested." So I have him April 29th. Guys, next week I'm not going to be around. I'll be in Virginia. So feel free to watch a previous podcast or episode of the podcast. But I have Todd Dewey from Ice Road Truckers from the History Channel. If you guys ever watched Ice Road Truckers, it's a crazy show. I can't imagine what these guys go through driving on ice. It's crazy.
Yes.
So Todd Dewey is going to be on April 22nd. So what else? There's so much stuff going on.
Wear your mask if you can. Social distance. Wash your hands.
Yeah.
Love your family.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to end the show. I don't have a video to play at the end. I'm making a new one, so I just kind of end the show. It's kind of sad that I don't have something to end the show with, but
We can wave it on TV.
Yeah, we're waving. We're saying goodbye to everybody.
May tomorrow be a special day.
Right. Be safe, guys. Be well. Enjoy the rest of your week. All right, we're going to end right now.